Really, really sad story of the death of two young UPSA students, former students of Achimota School, knocked down by what is now being reported as a hit and run driver. Now, when you listen to the family members of the victims, they're saying that the driver said he was speeding to report himself to a police station because he was afraid he would be beaten. But the question is, if you knock somebody down, isn't the best thing to do to stop and send them to the hospital?
Exactly.
You know, because the passers-by were those who got the victims to the hospital somewhere around midnight.
Yeah. And
And this occurred pretty late around the Achimota area. And we don't have a full breakdown of what happened, so we're not able to speculate on what caused this. But this happened in the night, so you presume there were visibility issues possibly. And then speeding is always an issue in Ghana. Lack of street lights is always an issue in Ghana, and that type of thing. And until we start in enforcing the law on speed limits, these stories will continue. People speed, and I think the mechanism for detecting speeding and punishing people who speed has not been fully put in place. So
this reminds me of the article, "Everything in Ghana will kill you."
Oh my God.
From the road to the person behind the motorbike, the quality of the infrastructure, the human behavior. Sometimes at night you're driving, it's not lit, and someone just crosses and you're like, oh my God, you know, the person is not in very colorful clothes, so dark clothes you don't see too well. And then the speed too is always an issue. So it's a cocktail of every issue that's always coming up. It's like Ghana is always after your life.
No, there has to be, you know, a more. I think what we need to do on the media is to mount a sustained campaign. I think we've mounted campaigns on things that have turned out to have national attention, and I think I need to credit the news center, because Elvis always publishes the statistics, but you know, because they are just numbers. They don't really tell the story. So for me, one of the things journalists are supposed to do is to make what is significant interesting. Okay, and let me explain that. So one of the values of having journalism and media is that there are a lot of important issues, but if you don't make it interesting, it doesn't get people's attention. So for example, instead of just reporting that two people from Achimota School who are going to UPSA had been killed, you need to humanize the story. Who were they? Who are their friends? Who are their parents? What were their dreams? What had they posted on social media about what they wanted to achieve in life? Now, if you read the news center, they always tell you maybe within the past year, X number of people have been killed by road crashes and Y number of people have been maimed. If we started doing profiling, okay, school kids, market women, mothers, and then we go into the effects of road crashes on families, how people whose loved ones died by road crashes have had to have their life altered by the road crash. Okay, the length of time it takes to secure a conviction, the quackery in the driving school system, the loopholes in the DVLA system that allows people who can't properly see to even drive, how to acquire a driver's license without, do you understand what I'm saying? Then, because for every issue of this magnitude, there are the three main E's. There's the enforcement, there's the engineering, and there's the education. So the enforcement is the police, the courts. The education is the Road Safety Commission. Indeed, the enforcement includes the DVLA, the police and the courts. They enforce the rules. Then there's the engineering. So the way the roads are built. Do we have the infrastructure on the roads to prevent speeding? Do we have speed limiters in some vehicles? Do we have proper street lights? Are the cars worthy for our roads? Do you get it? I feel like those three issues need to be pushed further. And until we make the issue of road crashes a national conversation which demands that, you know, like we've pushed Galamsey to a point where, you know, this week I was following somebody who said the president has given 3 big speeches since he took over. His inauguration speech, his State of the Nation address, and some other speech, I don't remember. And the person says that on all those 3, the president didn't say much about Galamsey. Now, this is because we've pushed Galamsey to a national level where now the absence of commentary on Galamsey is in itself a story. That the president's speech was good, but he didn't say anything about Galamsey. Why? Because Galamsey is really important that he deals with. Then his State of the Nation address, he said precious little about it. Okay. Now, I think the media needs to, or we collectively need to find new ways of telling the same old story. You know, because look at the girls who were killed by the young man driving at East Legon. This is, I think, early in the year, if not late last year. I'm not really sure. Late last year. Their lives were just cut short. These are teenagers. Yeah. All right. Then you have 2 fresh students at UPS who just left Achimota school. Yeah. And they were just killed. We don't know the circumstance, and we may never even know. That's the other problem. So there are 2 problems. The fact that we don't even know enough about how they died. You know, what we are told is that they were knocked by a hit-and-run driver. Yeah. Should there not be a certain rule around public inquiries into these matters, or some disclosure? Like the police simply say we are investigating, then that's it. It's almost like if I'm a policeman, you can simply say, oh, we are investigating, and everybody forgets it. You get it? I don't know if there's any public record of this driver and whether he'll be prosecuted, what driving school he went to, does he even have a proper driving license? Do you get it? Like, yeah. It's almost like the system is just trying to punish the driver for killing the girls without even trying to trace why would a driver of a vehicle like this knock down 2 girls at this time of the night and not stop. Is it that he couldn't drive well? Could he not see? Was it the road? Is he just a bad person? Was he drunk? Does he have a proper license? Where did he go to? You understand? Like, there must be a full inquest. And then that inquest will say, okay, maybe we are seeing too many substandard driving schools. And I'm just giving a speculative example, springing up. So maybe to reduce road crashes, let's improve the quality of our driving schools, as an example. Or we have too many rickety vehicles on the road. There's no reflective policy making on road crashes. All we do is report, and I blame the media too. All we do is report, 2 girls have been killed. We go to the funeral, they cry. We talk to 1 or 2 people, DVLA comes to say something, then we go back to normal life. There has to be more, a different approach. You get, because I have people I know whose lives have been altered because somebody in their family was killed on a road crash. Some couldn't pay school fees anymore. They couldn't go to university because of road crash. Breadwinners are killed. It's a very serious thing, and it's one of the. In fact, road crashes kill more people in Ghana than most diseases, and yet there's no rage, there's no discussion in detail, there's no policy reform, there's no culpability. It's troubling.
But
it's troubling.
Police MTTD, I want to believe, are responsible for safety and compliance on our roads, if that's correct.
Yes.
Over the weekend, one stopped me and asked for my license. I gave it to him, and he said, oh, my license was going to expire the next day. After I took the license, it's something that will expire in 2027.
So you didn't even see it well.
You didn't see well, right? And then you ask yourself, so all the other checks that you do on the road, it's to what end? You're struggling to find a scientific thing they are trying to check on the roads that will enhance the safety and the movement of people. If something like this has happened, I'm sure first of all, those who will do some investigation, cordon of the area will be, there'll be crime scene investigators from the police head office. They will be there, but police MTTD, this is within the remit of the police. So while I take the point that we need to be telling these stories in a more compelling manner that will make people see how important these are. So what were the facts? We've seen the Salifo Amoako case. It's been in court, it's going back and forth, and people are losing their attention, yes. So the media has a role to keep these things important and in the faces of the people. But what are we going to learn from this tragedy? Like the Salifo Amoako thing, have we decided to do anything on speeding in particular? Because we've seen that some people or someone has lost their life along the East Legon due to reckless driving over speeding. What have we learned from East Legon? Nothing. What has changed after East Legon? What has changed about how we drive, about how we even use our roads? Because if you also look at our pedestrian walkway, as you said, there's the engineering point, so that where human beings are supposed to be walking, people have heaped stuff there, or people are selling, or people have parked cars there. So then, as a motorist or as a driver, you have to compete between navigating your way on the road, your right of way, and then managing pedestrians who might just jump at you, or motorbikes in particular, who are always on your blind side. There is that. I don't think we've learned anything from the East Legon tragedy, unfortunately.
But let me ask,
we have
why do you think it's the police more? Don't you think it's more the road safety authorities collectively? Because you see, a road crash, the police come in after, the DVLA and the Road Safety Commission before. Do you understand? So I feel like on the preventive side of accidents, the police can come and do an investigation to say this is why the person died. But if the person is driving without a proper license or proper training, people have a very bad driving culture in Ghana. Like this weekend, a motorbike crosses you, all right, and the guy's right insulting you.
Yeah.
It's almost like, for me, I'll ask him, somebody like, is it like, am I blind or am I mad? Like this guy crossed me, he didn't even show his indicator, and he was rather like, So I I feel like there's a lot of, the system is lax. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
How did I start wearing glasses? So I finished university, and then I go to a driving school to start learning how to drive. And then they do a test of my eye, and they say, bro, with this kind of eye you have, you can't get a driver's license. So you need to go do a proper
eye test.
Because they said before you part of the examination process, you need to do an eye test. Okay. Now I was 22 years old, and apparently I was myopic, so I wear glasses. Fair enough. Now, there are probably 700,000 or more trotro drivers in Ghana. I've never seen a trotro driver wear glasses in my life.
I haven't seen one.
Now think about this.
Yeah.
Most trotro drivers are aged between, say, 24 to, say, 45 or 50. The average Ghanaian of that age, whether in a school, as a teacher, as a doctor, a nurse, they wear glasses. Yet, you never see trotro drivers wear glasses. So does it mean that all trotro drivers can see well? Whilst the three of us in this studio are all wearing glasses. My boss Amens wears glasses. Yeah. Sometimes Godfred wears glasses. Sometimes Sky wears glasses.
Every space, almost everyone.
So the question you need to ask yourself is, with such a social fact that the average literate Ghanaian, probably 55 to 60% of them have short-sightedness. They wear glasses. And yet the rate of spectacle wearing in trotro drivers is less than 10%. Now, is this just an amazing fact that trotro drivers, for some reason, because of the smoke, they see better? Or that the system that we put in place does not enforce wearing of glasses? I mean, you need to do something with these facts.
I just did a quick search, and apparently 30% of people are myopic in the world.
Good.
So
30% of people. So let's even say that 30% of trotro drivers. I'm yet to see even Uber drivers. You get it? So my point is, if your streets are dark,
some other figures say 22%. So let's say 20 to 30%. So we should have at least.
Have you ever seen a trotro or taxi driver wear glasses in your life?
I think maybe I've seen a taxi driver.
No, for the taxi drivers, yes.
One or
two. Trotro, I've not seen any. I think that there must be some outrage. These two precious lives must not go without anything happening. You know, there must be some outrage. The transport minister must sit urgently. There must be an emergency meeting. Someone at the transport ministry must be engaging someone at the road safety authority. Someone in parliament must be raising urgent questions about how our streets, our roads are becoming a very easy way to death for young people, old and young.
I think
it doesn't make sense.
I think we need a campaign. If you don't, this is the way I see it. In Ghana, the tail wags the dog, because there are lots of priorities. Generally, our political culture is one of avoiding shame. So if something is, if the media raises public sentiment against something, it becomes fashionable to be seen to be fighting it. This is the way I see governance in Ghana. So whether it's Galamsey or whatever it is, if the media keeps talking about it, everybody jumps on board. That's the way people work.
But that's the unfortunate part of it, because
hold
on.
I'm trying to get a solution.
Sure.
I'm not trying to
I get you.
What I'm saying is that you know that in Ghana, if you don't consistently talk about something on air, and the media give it mileage, it will probably not get the attention it requires, because a lot of our leaders are into the showmanship of leadership generally.
Yeah.
So they do an inspection, they carry media. Like even today, Ghana Water Company, they've gone to inspect. Like everybody wants to show you that they are working, so they move around and do whatever. So it's not like there's a plan. For some they are, but for most it's more like they need media validation to show what they are doing. Okay. Now, part of that is also, we also have not, if you say there's no rage, some of the rage can be media occasion, because you see, the media is a public sphere. It's what gets put on the table that people process. Okay, so look, this week we're talking about budget, economic forum. People talk about the economy, whatever. There are some issues that people generally feel strongly about, but there are many issues that if the media does not consistently drive it, it will not get, because you see, as I said, this Achimota old students who died is another statistic until you humanize the story. If you don't create the story around the story, it's not going to go anywhere, because if you say 25% of people who die in road crashes are aged between this age, they are X number, it doesn't mean anything to anybody.
And I think maybe you have a point that maybe too many people die from road crashes. That is not even a story anymore.
Yes.
Because I read a UN reports that in our part of the world, especially, most people die in traffic accidents is because they've been knocked down.
Yeah.
So it's more common. It's so common that I think it's even the type of thing that is when it's certain people. I think you hear more when some university students have died
or
something like specific people.
A lot more happen in the dark.
Because it's very common. Because remember we spoke about them. There was a school. Which school was it? Collego, no?
Yeah.
Was it that the school you spoke about a few weeks ago that their security man or something was hit on his bicycle? People get hit all the time. Pedestrians and people on these side, they get hit all the time. And I think we have a problem with the way our roads are, because it shouldn't be happening like that.
I actually think it's a consequence of bad governance, and I need to explain. You see, generally in a society, when you are the quality of governance generally determines the quality of life. Do you get it? So whether it's health, education, road safety, whatever, if governance is functioning in a way that there's consequence for misconduct and there's reward for good behavior, things generally get better. Now, what tends to happen in Ghana is that a lot of people cut corners when it comes to driving. So, for example, the driving license exam, you have to be literate to write it. Generally, a lot of people who drive commercially may not be highly literate. So they find a sub-economy around licensing. That's not to say only short drivers drive bad. Even educated people in town also drive bad. But there's a culture of bad driving in the country, which, because governance institutions are weak and corrupt, are not able to prevent. Now, you cannot. When I was in the UK, I have a friend who was supposed to get a driver's license. The person drives well in Ghana. Charlie, the number of times this person failed the UK driving test, and the seriousness with which they prepared for they had a name for it, MOT. It was crazy. But here, it's almost like you can have somebody who can't even speak right. He's driving for 30 years. How did he get his license? How did he even go through the exam? How does he interpret the driving signs? You get it? So if you don't have quality institutions that oversee sectors of society, you come up with these kinds of things. And then number two, the culture is like, like there's no accountability.
It is God that gives.
Okay, so I really believe we have to do something about it. We have to decide as a media house to say, look, this culture of road crashes, we need a road crash monitor. In fact, the Ghana Police Service have a room where they have security cameras on every major traffic intersection. So they actually can give you an inventory of road crashes per day if they wanted to. What do they use that for?
They do MTTD reports every year about the number of accidents, people who've died.
And what did they use it for?
I've not seen it in a while, but they were doing it.
There must be the prevent. I think the example you're citing earlier is the Odogono.
Yes,
senior high school. But it's interesting because this reminds me of my project work in Legon. I was looking at the knowledge of trotro drivers in reading road signs.
This is geography and resource development.
Yes, many of them.
Human geography.
Yes, many of them cannot interpret road signs properly.
The knowledge of trotro drivers for road signs.
And this was Medina Trotro Station. You can go there and ask them. Just show them the road signs. Ask them.
But yet they all have driver's license.
They are driving. They are moving people from Accra to different parts of the city. and
what percentage could interpret the road?
20%.
1/5.
Yes.
So 80% didn't know.
Do you understand? And I didn't even consider the eyeglasses kind of.
You just did the road sign interpretation.
Just the road sign interpretation, because it influences how you drive. If you're getting to a curb, you should know you cannot overtake. You should know the speed limit.
What do the lines even mean?
You understand whether.
I'll even give you an example. I was behind a truck. You see when you are coming up and you turn just before the palace. See the more like the road when you get to Flower Pot, it kind of splits into two.
Yeah.
So this truck was kind of in the road. He was telling me to overtake him. But if you know the way that road is, and if you turn right, there's no broken line, so you can't overtake.
Yeah.
There's like
a firm.
Yeah. So it means you
a
can't
bold
overtake.
line. Yeah. But the driver
guy is telling me overtake.
How do you overtake?
But you see, because he's wasting time in the road doing God knows what. He thinks that he's being fair to me, say, "Oh, overtake me." So he's trying to help me.
But it's okay.
But I'm thinking to myself, bro, there's no broken line.
The lines mean something.
I now need to get to the broken line before I can, because you're not supposed to go over that.
But I know the funny thing though. So here we are complaining that a driver doesn't understand what a broken line is. On the other hand, we don't even have any lines on some roads. So like on the beach road, there's no line.
In fact, when you now go to that roundabout and turn up, there's no, after you cross a certain part, then the road lines are gone.
So Caleb, to summarize before we go for our first break. I think I want us to consider.
Bernard, I actually want to say something as well, just before you go on. I think also pedestrians. I think part of it's also our road infrastructure that doesn't help pedestrians. So they're also crossing at certain points on the road which don't help.
Jaywalking.
Because for me, you look at a road sometimes, like there's not enough zebra crossings on the road. So they are crossing at any and all points. And it can become a problem because if you and two people are driving and one person decides to stop,
and the other person doesn't stop, you can still kill somebody.
It can be a problem. So I think the road infrastructure should help pedestrians, because I don't blame pedestrians, because I don't want to walk 1 kilometer before I cross the road if I'm walking. That's not fair on the pedestrian.
We'll come back and deal with more of this. But one of the things I feel we should start doing, and I want to encourage listeners to do, is to send us personal stories on road crashes, all right? Because I think the media needs to humanize the story. Don't forget, one of the principles of journalism is to make the significant interesting. And sometimes the way we tell our stories determines how society reacts to this. And I think it's well within our alley to do a lot more on road crashes than simply reporting the statistics. So maybe from today, you guys in the newsroom as well, your stories. To be fair, what's his name? Ayana, what's his name? The guy who did the story. Manuel. He actually spoke to the family, and his story was beyond the So I will deal with that story when I come back from the break. I'll deal with that story, but I really want I want listeners, for us to have a more meaningful conversation about road crashes, understand why it's so pervasive, and what we can do to reduce it as a campaign. I have a question for listeners this morning on the issue of road crashes. Where should the emphasis be? Is it on education? Is it on engineering? Or is it on enforcement? Where should we place more emphasis? Like, if we're going to do a campaign, or if we're going to advocate for change, I know all three are important, but if you assess the level of road crashes in Ghana and the rampancy with which people are killed on our roads, should we do more education, or should we spend more resources on education, which then goes to the culture? Should we spend more on enforcement, which goes to more like the rules and regulations, or should we go to the engineering, which goes more to the infrastructure? Well, I need to say that in the past, like this George Jara song, Driver Bands, has focused a lot on the driver.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of advocacy around defensive driving, and around the driver not drinking to drive, not speeding. Yeah. They usually go to the trotro stations and the transport stations, and they urge people to speak up when the driver is driving bad. So it appears to me the education part, a lot of money has been spent on the social side of education. Yeah. I think we need another social marketing campaign on driving. I think it's gotten to an epidemic proportion where nobody's safe. Yeah. Nobody's safe, but the narrative has been business as usual. All right, this is what George Arad tried to do in the 90s. I think this is 1992 or something. So this was a song that George Jara released that for me as a child I used to watch on television. Yeah. There was actually a video.
I think Obo also had a campaign like this on driving.
There was a video on this, and there was no Obo's one. Was it on driving?
Yeah, Obo had one like that
on driving.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't go that far. If it did, I don't remember too much. But whatever. No, I'm not downplaying it. But my point is that these things have to be sustained.
Yeah.
These things have to be sustained. I don't think the way we see road crashes is the right way. I think we are very forgiving, and we are very fatalistic. Oh, it is God. If God doesn't want it to not happen, there are so many things happening that God doesn't like, but we allow because we just do bad things.
So Bernard, let me give you a global overview of this incident. Now, approximately 1.19 million people die each year as a result of road traffic crashes.
I want Ghana. I think in Ghana it's more serious.
No, don't worry, I'll give you that. 1.19 million globally, that's crazy. And road traffic injuries are the leading cause of deaths for children and young adults aged 5 and 9. Now I'm coming closer to home.
5 to 29.
5 to 29. What did I say?
5 to 9.
Oh, apologies. Now, 92% of the world's fatalities on the roads occur in low and medium income countries like our own, even though these countries have around 60% of the world's vehicles. And more than half of all road traffic deaths are among vulnerable road users, including pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists. And road traffic crashes cost most countries 3% of their GDP and all of that. Of course, these are not things that a lot of people relate with more directly. But if you come down to Ghana, in 2024, 1,237 people lost their lives. And 7 dead as a result of road crashes. And then we recorded 7,561 injuries. And this is between January and June.
So half year.
Yeah, half year. All the figures I'm giving are half year. 1,273 deaths, 7,561 injuries between January and June, and this was 2024. Now, if I take you to...
So what about the end of the year then? Probably you can assume it's double.
Yes.
So that's around 2,500 would have died, and probably 15K
injured.
Would have been injured.
So if you are looking at...
No, hold on.
Yes.
Imagine 2,500 people died on a road accident.
Yeah.
15,000 people injured. And these are injuries that some of them are life-threatening.
Yes. And you are maimed for a lifetime. For a lifetime. It's an injury you will nurse for the rest of your life. You
and I'm sure, and what we are told is that the main cause of road crashes is driver error.
The human factor.
That's what they say. But there are things you can put in place to reduce the likelihood of that occurring.
True.
Including preventing people who have no business driving from sitting behind the driving steer.
Yeah.
And then having enough consequence for bad driving that if somebody is actually driving bad, then they must be really determined to drive bad. Do you get it? Street cameras, or spot fines. I don't think speed limiters, all speed cameras, all those things they never work. We will spend millions of cedis on these projects as we've done in the past, and yet you don't see any outcome. It's really tragic.
It's the enforcement,
So you think the enforcement is
I think people respond very well to consequences.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world. I don't think Ghanaians are special. I don't think Ghanaians are immune to consequence. I don't think Ghanaians feel they can do what they want.
So punish people.
If people are feeling their punishment, they'll behave.
But the police that will enforce the punishment, you see, this is the problem. Somebody said to me, why should a person go to court and spend 3 weeks going back and forth to be fined 200 cedis by a judge? That's not the good use of a judge's time. That they should rather have a system of spot fines. All right, but this spot fine system cannot work in a society which is cash based generally. In Western societies that are more advanced, if you commit a traffic offense and you are found out, there's a system that extracts the money from you from source.
You get points on your license. Your insurance premiums go up. There's consequences.
But see, so the problem with Ghana is that the hard intervention is undermined by the soft decay. The policeman is corrupt. He's not interested in, until you put in place a system where the camera is objective and collects the money in a way that is clear. If a policeman stops me and collects money, that's just he probably is not going to pay it.
Sometimes you can even beg.
I don't know. I don't know whether just having these machines and devices alone.
Yeah, but that's why I didn't say. I just said enforcement. I didn't go into what they are. You see, the things, the laws are there. I don't think our traffic laws are traffic laws that enable speeding. They enable reckless driving. We have. That's the thing. When we speak about this all the time, is the enforcement of the standards and the laws. If we enforce the standards and the laws and people felt the consequences of flaunting these standards and laws, people would behave. I'm
going to speak to Abraham Amaliba. He's the acting Director General of the National Road Safety Commission. We are using the crash that took the life of 2 UPSA students and the death of some teenagers at East Legon a few months ago, and the over 1,200 people who died between January and June last year as the basis for this discussion. Mr. Maliba, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard, and good morning to your listeners.
Thank you so much. I feel there's not enough said in the media about the devastating effects of road crashes, and we typically just report the statistic, and that road crashes kill more people than most diseases in Ghana, yet they don't get the same level of airtime as some of these diseases. From where you sit as new CEO of DVA, of Road Safety Commission, what are your opening thoughts around the menace of road crashes and the number of people we are killing every day on roads?
Well, when I took over office, I realized that there were 2 main causes of road crashes. 2 main. There are other minor ones, but 2 main. One is driver indiscipline, and the other is pedestrian indiscipline. And you'll be surprised that some of the accidents are also caused by pedestrians. But if we are able to curb these 2, driver indiscipline and pedestrian indiscipline, it will go a long way to reduce road crashes. And so when I took over, I immediately made some trips to some streets in Accra. And my concern was whether we have footbridges enough to carry pedestrians. And so we also realized that there were no road markings in some areas. Then also we realized that poor street lighting or absence of them at all. So these are some of the issues, but mainly driver indiscipline.
Okay, so let's take it one by one. Driver indiscipline, there are a couple of low-hanging fruits. For example, I wear glasses. My colleagues in the studio all wear glasses. The cursory look at commercial vehicle drivers, most of them don't wear glasses. And you know that before a person gets a license to drive, they must do an eye test. Isn't it curious to you that most of our trotro drivers don't wear glasses? Is it that they see better than the rest of us?
We have instituted some medical checks at the various terminals. If you were listening to news when I issued a caution to 2M Express and invited them to my office to have a discussion with them concerning their vehicles, because we were told that they were overspeeding on the Accra-Kumasi road. At the end of the day, we realized that there was lack of training for their drivers. We also realized that they were not adhering to some simple basic requirements of having a logbook which would indicate when you left your station and when you got to your destination. And so we ordered them to do these things rightly. We are going to go back to them to find out whether they are complying. If not, we'll sanction them. So We need to do more on these areas, and with my coming in, I'm determined to use the law to enforce some of this.
What kind of relationship do you have with the DVLA? Are you able to recommend to them to do like a retesting of commercial drivers or any driver for that matter because of the spate of accidents? Because obviously if somebody is driving without the proper qualification, that's the starting point, isn't it? Because he's running a vehicle that can kill a person, and yet he didn't go through the right procedure to get the license. So is the Road Safety Commission able to recommend to either the DVLA or to your minister to institute far-reaching changes in the way another institution like the DVLA does its work?
We are the regulator of the road sector. That's our work. And we have the authority and capacity to order for compliance. It is assumed that if you have a license from the DVLA, you are qualified to be on the road. However, we are also aware that some of these checks are not done properly. Nothing stops the Road Safety Authority from requesting the DVLA to up their game and ensure that persons who are not qualified do not sit behind the wheel. Tomorrow, I'm meeting the Highways Authority. They are in charge of road markings in this country. After that, I'll meet the urban roads, same day. They are in charge of the street lights, the traffic lights. So I am ensuring that all road sector players would begin to up their game on this matter. So nothing stops us. We can deal with DVLA on this matter.
So you mentioned two big things in the first answer, that behavior of driver indiscipline, and then pedestrian indiscipline. So these two suggest to me education and enforcement. But there's a strong view that there's also engineering. So for example, a recent special report on Channel 1 TV on the major causes of accidents on the Kumasi-Accra highway revealed 1, reckless driving, which you have mentioned; 2, bad nature of the sections of the highway; 3, non-functioning street lights; and 4, abandoned tracks as the major cause. Apart from point number 1, you can say point number 2 and 3 are engineering design issues. Abandoned tracks could be anything. It could be lack of a system of towing, or it could be just indiscipline. But it looks like we haven't focused enough also on lack of road markings, lack of street lights, and the nature of the roads we use as contributory factors. Again, is the Road Safety Commission in any position to influence these two?
It is the reason why we are meeting the Highways Authority tomorrow. We have complaints of a section of the road around Citi area. There's a bridge there. Our Eastern Region Director drew our attention to it. It's going to be a matter for discussion. That is within the confines of Highways Authority. It is the same reason why we had discussions with the Road Safety Services Limited. That is a towing company last Friday. So you see, all these things are beginning to roll out because of the recent crashes that we are having. I had discussions with them to see how they can put their vehicles for us to be able to remove vehicles which are parked on the road. That's the Road Safety Services Company. So we are doing all this, and I'm sure that in the coming weeks there will be some sanity on our roads.
Are you planning on any mass behavior change campaign which will get the attitudes of people? Because in Ghana, I think the attitude of people to the road is also a problem. So beyond enforcement, there's a whole mindset issue. Is the Road Safety Commission minded to start any type of behavioral campaign? And number two, how can the media support this? Because I feel like there's a need for that too, in addition to whatever substantive changes you make in the law or whatever you want to do with the other institutions.
I'm sure very soon let's all come to your desk. We are trying to partner with you because we know that you have some experience with road indiscipline when you were partnering the police, and I want to activate that. Apart from that, as if you were listening into my conversation with my minister, Honorable Bukari, we want to run a promo on road safety using a prominent Ghanaian citizen to speak out against indiscipline on our roads. So we may come to you again for that one as well. We're thinking to either to use the president. If we are not using the president, we can use any of the, maybe President Kufuor or any of our chiefs, So these discussions were held just this morning with my road minister.
Well, good. But finally, you're a lawyer. Are there any laws that need to be tightened or changed or introduced to support this effort of road safety?
Yes, we need to negligent driving. Some of the accidents are not accident per se. Some of them are negligence on the part of either the drivers, but more so the drivers. And I think that we need to give more higher, stiffer punishment to those type of accidents. The driver that you spoke about who hit and ran away, clearly, I think is out of negligence. This is not accident. Accident is when you can't control, you are not aware of the consequences, or you can't even control the issue. It came by itself. But negligence is when you are not up to your responsibility. And I think when it comes to negligent driving, we shouldn't treat it as a common accident, and punishment must be meted out severely to those drivers.
Any plans for speed cameras and spot fines? When we go out to UK and other places, when you speed over a certain kilometer, in fact, they will take the money from your bank account before you even reach home. All right. Is there any plan? Realistically, what can we do within the next 2 years to ensure that speeding is limited by street cameras and also a spot fine system is introduced?
In fact, give me next 2 months, LI 2478, if it is passed, will bring into force this spot fine. You remember this law was supposed to pass, but there was public outcry against the siren which was put in there to protect MPs. You remember that? And so that law didn't pass. And I'm saying that if you give me within 2 months, because that law is being worked on again, we'll be able to deal with spot fines.
So you will remove the MP part?
There's a program called Traffic Tech. Traffic Tech is the spot fine that you are talking about, and it will come in place immediately this law is passed.
But you will remove the part that gives the MPs the right to use sirens, I guess.
Oh yes, that's gone. That's gone. So it will come back without that one. In fact, it will come with the introduction of legalizing Okada. And so that whole law is being worked on, and then it will come back.
Good. Now that we are on the subject that you brought, what are you putting in place to ensure that legalizing Okada does not lead to more problems?
So there was a team that went to Rwanda to study their practice. They are in the whole world. I'm told that Rwanda and Qatar, is it Qatar or Dubai? One of them. So we went to study the Rwanda experience. We returned just last week, and we realized that there were two things that made the Rwanda experience very, very prominent. One is enforcement. So we need to engage our MTTD to ensure that road regulations are obeyed by the Okada riders. We are also going to register them. We are going to register owners of these motorbikes. Then we would give them some clothing in terms of reflectors. They will put on helmets, and they will have their numbers embossed on the helmets. And so we have studied a lot of things from the Rwanda experience, and if implemented to the letter, this would not cause us any havoc on our roads. And so we are also going to give them sensitization on road safety before they even come onto the roads. And they will be put in cooperatives such that if you are misbehaving, we'll just go to your cooperative and they'll fish you out and will sanction you or ban you from riding. So tomorrow I'm meeting the Okada president and meeting the tricycle president as well to deal with these matters.
So whilst I agree that we need to regularize Okadas, I feel like adding that to the thing you are doing in 2 months may be a bit hurried. This is my uninformed view, because I suspect there needs to be a bit more public education on the Okada thing. And 2 months is a very short time, because you promised that you're going to work on the LI in 2 months.
2 months is the LI, but not the Okada. 2 months is the LI.
Because the Okada will be too soon, because you haven't done any public engagement. You haven't.
No.
Good.
Okada will have public engagements. We'll have one in Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, and there's a fourth one in Volta. So we are not yet to introduce Okada within 2 months, but I'm just saying that the law would go to Parliament, and then if it's amended, we'll start the processes.
You clearly have a lot on your plate, so let me leave you. So thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Abraham Amaliba is the new DG of the National Road Safety Commission, and making a lot of promises that we will follow up on.
Yeah.
The LI 2464, I think it's called, which was to regulate in a more useful way the conduct of vehicle drivers, is going to come back, but they've taken out the part that there was a part that we didn't like. Okay.
For the MPs.
Yeah. So it's 8:43. What I wanted you to do was to read some comments for me on the issue of road safety. And I need ideas from listeners. Honestly, I'm very, very honest here. I need listeners to help me on how what should we emphasize? How should we do it?
But
because I know I have to do something, but I don't know how to do it.
So we need to have reminders, and people must be really punished also. I'll give you 2 examples, right? That will clarify things. I told you the other time that Namibia has one of the best roads in Africa and indeed the world. Now, road crashes and fatalities in Namibia is really, really high. Because their roads are good, they drive very recklessly. In our short time there, we saw not less than 10 crashes, and I'm not kidding. Now, in Rwanda, which he speaks about, the motorbikes, you will not see one rider and a pillion rider without helmet.
Both are in helmet.
All of them, all the time. And you will not see one jump the red light. Because, like we discussed, there are speed guns on the stretch that are picking your details, and their system is highly digitalized. So as we said, you cited the UK, for example. This is not UK, this is Rwanda. If you break the traffic laws, if you jump the red light, quickly you are found out, you are punished. And if you run into...
So is it like the police will stop you, or there's a system that will...
It's digital. There are speed robots on the road.
So once your motorbike number is seen,
yes,
they know the person on the bike.
Precisely.
So they'll find you.
They will find you. And their mobile money uptake is also very high.
But Ghana, we have a lot of... So you're saying if somebody's car number is linked to their Momo,
yes,
the government can collect the money without...
Simple.
Even if you don't have money, they will collect it.
Do you understand? Then you are in debt or something. So
wow.
I'm trying to come here with this information to say that we can have very, very good roads. And notice, even the Boteman stretch, that is very good. We are complaining about knockdowns and all of that. So if the roads are good and the education is poor and the enforcement is weak, you are still going to have more fatalities and crashes.
So you think the education and enforcement is as important as the engineering?
Critical, just as important as the engineering, because guess what? We cannot have all our roads in top shape, but at least we should have all our roads with road markings and with street lights.
So what should I advocate and how should I do it? Or what should we not even me, the whole as media, what do you think we should do?
As media, we need to focus on the behavioral aspect of it and insist that the government also enforces and punishes those who fail to listen to the education that we are giving out. Because quite honestly, if you go to most of the trotro stations, this is how you get to know how to drive. You are mates. You are doing ule. Next time your driver is somewhere, is sleeping, you are behind the steering wheel and you are moving. You try 1, 2, at home, and you are driving.
Ule.
That's how people are driving. Ule, and then you are driving.
And the annoying part of ule is, trotro drivers, look, you will
just park with that.
When you're in a trotro, and you want to drop somewhere, they say, oh, we won't stop here.
Yes, but when they have to pay,
When they see a bus, oh, wallet. And you know, the wallet thing, you the guy driving behind him. If you are not sensitive, you will just look. I was at, where was I? I was at.
I'll tell you a story. My cousin was in an accident in a church because, like you said, these churches, they stop anywhere to pick people. So they were going somewhere and he decided to stop somewhere in the road and a big truck was coming.
Oh!
And they kind of crushed the church a bit. It's not like they got seriously injured or anything. She went to the hospital, they checked her, but the church kind of got...
I was at...
So yeah, they themselves put themselves at risk.
They just stop anywhere. And guess what? They create a lot of nuisance. Go to La Paz. The bus stop there, they park all the way into the roads. If it's a 3-lane,
do you know that there is a direct relationship between trotro stations and filth?
There is.
So I did a study, and this is basically observation.
Yeah.
When 2 or 3 trotros meet,
there will be filth.
So now you go to Shiashi, opposite the Accra Mall. They've converted a space there into a trotro station.
That's true.
Wait for 2 months. It's going to become... Now, you go to Ho. One of the reasons Ho is clean, there are no trotros. So the thing is, when you bring Ghanaians together to sit and you have where 3 or 4 trotros are,
there will be filth, Bernard.
Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name,
and there will be stench.
There I am in their midst.
And there will be stench.
So the thing is, there has to be a special aspect of the campaign around the behavior around trotros. We are not saying we don't need trotros. Trotros are okay, but the way they congregate and the way the spaces are managed is not healthy.
I passed through Kaneshi Market. Yeah. You know the Kaneshi Market road. I passed there was it 2 nights or something ago?
Yeah.
And it was like the amount of water on the road and the rubbish. Oh, it was just so bad. And like you said, because when you pass there in the day, there's all these structures there and stuff.
In fact, one lane is off. So basically, one lane is taken. But the other point that we don't think about. You know, it's a difficult work. You know, transport ministry is a tough job. You need to find a way of, say, for example, how do we modernize trotro stations? That's the whole campaign. Yeah. And I think that can be the root of a lot of change. Yeah. The trotro station is the center where people meet. Yeah. They sell medicines. People come with megaphones to speak to people. You can do your public education there. Yeah. You can do cleanliness education there. True. You can do enforcement of driver's licenses there. Yes. But if you don't build a trotro station for them and you just leave them to meet anywhere, you have no moral right to go and tell them to do anything. So like this Shiashi place, if we agree that Shiashi should be a trotro station, then properly demarcate it, pave it, or do the right thing there. But now the cars just park there and they just start. Then people start urinating, they put rubbish, and it becomes a mess.
And then so people are also selling. Maybe they are selling food. So
they start selling.
They start eating and they'll drop their
So it's a question of like leadership must be a bit more proactive. Okay, I think trotros have come to stay. I have a proposal for trotro replacement, but I don't think we have time for that now. I believe that if government gets money, they should ask people to bring trotros older than 10 years.
Older than 5 to be.
And those trotros can be sent to convey vegetables or something.
Let me ask you a question. The trotro older, is it the year they arrived in the country or the year the car was manufactured?
Look,
because those are two different.
If I had my way, I'll simply say trotros who are 10 years old, bring them in. The
car is 10 years old.
Yes. Come together, bring your trotros to us as government. We will send those trotros to farming communities to convey food or agricultural produce on feeder routes, and then we will give you newer vehicles.
It makes more sense.
Which will give you a work and pay system. So that newer vehicles, 2 or 3 can come together, but at least you have safer roads because like people are in the trotro and it's a bit healthy. It's a bit like a minibus with seat belt and things. Okay. Or come up with a bus system, because see the thing about the bus system is that if you come up with a bus system, the trotros feel threatened because they work for livelihood driving minivans. Yeah. So I think that there needs to be a replacement of these trotros and then find a way of getting them to work and pay for it or something.
I remember we had this conversation prior to the appointment of the transport minister. Yeah. Citizen Sika Togo from Lagos says our roads are not great when it comes to street lights, road markings all through the country, compound errand police officers, and too many checkpoints to extort monies. Late night driving in Ghana is an extreme sport, but we get taxed for street lights. We're a joke. Irregular and irresponsible driving on our roads, particularly at night, is a national national threat. No laws work once the day is over. Condolences to the families of these girls. You say, Bernard, I lost my only sister who was on her way to teach her class on the campus of Ghana National College on June 2, 2022, due to the negligence and disobedience, lack of compliance or adherence to road regulations by a young policewoman. These issues are truly disheartening, and the lack of action by the National Road Safety Authority, etc., it's really sad. Dear Bernard, my observation in recent times about the drivers who speed like that, they are mostly DV plate drivers. This is coming from Dome. Hi, Bernard. Good morning. Speaking about road crashes, I was driving to a Brie. A motor rider driving the opposite direction, opposite my lane, came up. Unfortunately for the rider, there was a taxi parked on the shoulder of the road, and this rider couldn't maneuver through. Eventually, he broke my driving mirror, and guess what? He blamed me for it, and he didn't even stop. Good morning, Bernard. Many of the law enforcement institutions seem to lack preventive mechanisms in dealing with recurring situations. I believe our educational system must be redesigned to deal with the attitude and the illiteracy challenge with respect to road usage, sanitation, etc., etc. Hello, Citi. Talking about road safety, I was at UPSA yesterday and I realized there is a new road that has been constructed right in front of their main hostel. I was very worried about the way drivers were speeding on that road where students use free walk, where students walk. There is a little part of that road that is yet to be leveled, but the road is now open to the public. My concern is that there are no speed bumps or pedestrian markings to be constructed on that stretch, and the lives of these UPSA students are at stake.
I wanted to suggest something here. When was the last time you saw school kids aged between, say, 4 and 7 being taken to crossroads as part of the education, where as part of the curriculum there is a day they go and learn how to cross roads? I think that's a very important thing to do, because you see, we assume many people know things. I mean, when I was young, they used to tell us, look left, look right, and left again. And he also used to say, don't run when you are crossing a road, and cross at a zebra crossing. I was nearly knocked down by a car when I was in like class 1, because I was my brothers working at Legon, between where the university park their buses. They call it maintenance, where they go for their fueling.
Is it near the performing arts?
Yes, so after performing arts, so I was walking to University Primary School.
EDMSD.
Good. So after that, and in fact, I remember very closely because the first house after the station, after that place, Idrisu Yakubu or something was there. It's house, bungalow number 3 or something. I remember very carefully. So that day, we stopped to buy something, and then a vehicle stopped across the road to give us a lift to go to the school. I was with my brothers. I was like class 1 or 2. I just ran. And as I was crossing the road, a car basically screeched to a halt. You could see that I crossed the road without watching. Okay. And if it wasn't that car stopped, I would have died by now, because basically I crossed the road, I hadn't been taught. And I come back to my first trip to Switzerland. And I'm walking to the WTO, and then I see school kids aged like my kids. These are like 4 or 5 year olds being led by a teacher. And when he goes, he gets the traffic light, and they all stop, and then they all cross. They are all wearing yellow boots. And this is something I'm told is done routinely. And I'm saying, our public school kids, because we are talking about behavior. And Maliba spoke about behavior. Maybe we should start this campaign in schools to say, this is the way to cross a road. This is what, because apart from telling the kids red means stop, yellow means get ready, green means go, I'm not really sure kids are objectively trained how to cross roads, how to interpret road signs. It's a very important part of their education.
And that's why I mentioned our pedestrians, because if you pay attention to pedestrian behavior, pedestrians don't cross the road like they know how to cross the road. Because it's like they are looking for a gap in the road. And that's why I said sometimes it's also the lack of zebra crossings. But a lot of the time you are driving, it's like people are looking for a gap in the traffic to kind of run across. And for you that's driving, that's very unpredictable, because the person in front of you might stop, the person behind you might not be prepared for it. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. But when it's a zebra crossing, everyone knows that you slow down. everyone knows that a zebra crossing, you can't speed up.
You know how drivers look at you when you stop at a zebra crossing.
Yeah, no, that me, and I remember because when we were in high school, we used to cross the road. SOS. There's some road in Tema. We used to cross at the back of the school.
Yeah.
If you see how fast those
People
drivers
drive.
used to go in the afternoon, so in the morning they used to have a security guard with like a flag.
Yeah.
We used to stop the traffic fast because that one, everyone goes to school at the same time in the morning. But leaving school, people leave at different times because I guess from 3 to 5, basically people will leave between that time. So having someone there for 2 hours is a lot.
More comments this morning.
Time, the cars are just driving.
We are soliciting a couple of ideas on which aspect of the 3 is to focus on. Is it engineering? Is it enforcement? Is it education? We're also asking who should we collaborate with. A few ideas have come up. Schools, road safety. For example, I'm going to propose maybe to the people in the literacy challenge to emphasize a bit on road safety in the next one, because that's one of the things we do that makes a lot of impact where we go to school. So maybe Apioko and team may want to think about that.
But Bridget Jogbanuku sent a message. We disrespect each other. Everyone is disrespecting the other. Drivers disrespect each other. Pedestrians, same. They disrespect drivers and vice versa. Okada riders disrespect drivers.
I want suggestions on what to do. We know the problem now. So what I want people to tell me is what should we do? How for telling me what we know? We've been saying that since 7 o'clock.
Parenting in our country is becoming something else.
Yeah.
Most vehicles that troop to most family and public events are driven by teenagers. Some are really young, and one wonders how they get their driving permits. Okay. Hello, Citi. It is estimated that most first respondents to accident scenes end up killing victims than the accident itself because of how they are handled. What is the duty of police at accident scenes in Ghana? Just to collect evidence to prosecute the offender, not to put in measures to prevent further occurrences. I've written a guide on the transformation of the road safety regulations in Ghana and still waiting for what to do with it because the ministry might take it and just shelve it.
Send it to us. We'll read it on air.
I was driving in Ghana for 10 years before moving, but failed my first theory and practical test in Iceland. We need a total transformation, Paul Efa.
Paul, well, the thing about Ghana is put it on air. Somebody will come for it. We were happy to read it on air. I like the fact that you have written to the ministry. There's a new ministry, so write to them again. Hopefully they'll hear.
Bernard, we need to address the way students cross the road, especially around UPSA. They take their sweet time as if the world belongs to them. When walking at the edge of the road, they totally ignore cars behind them, with their heads bowing down, looking at their phones almost all the time. Robbie from Adente.
UPSA is a unique issue because, you know, Legon, if you are driving in Legon, you are on campus.
Yes.
So speed limit is 30.
Yeah.
UPSA is a university which has a public road going through it. I think there needs to be an engineering design issue where, for example, you can have railings to separate where pedestrians walk from the main road. Right. So like a walkway, a proper walkway or a footbridge, because it's like a Briggles. A Briggles has a main road in between.
Yes.
Students walk on top. UPSA needs a proper footbridge.
It does.
Because the students can't be rushing.
Achimota too has a footbridge.
Yes.
They have footbridges even.
So in fact, the way UPSA has developed, I want to urge the VC to write to the Road Safety Commission for a special, and this is not just UPSA, you know, for UPSA to the business school, what we used to call IPS junction.
Yes.
Because that
Presec
whole
students
yes,
also use
so
that.
Presec, UPSA and Legon students, they are basically at the mercy of non-students who are driving fast, who are not, and there's no proper lighting. You know, maybe the VC of UPSA, VC of Legon, and Presec headmaster should come together to write to the Road Safety Commission and the DVLA and maybe the Ministry of Transport about a special solution for the students who use that road, because that enclave has become very, very busy.
Professor Malta, that's for you. He does listen to the show a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he will take
so
that
free advice
Yeah.
on what to do.
Yeah. Bernard, our streets are too dark, particularly the N6 and N1. We need street lights that work. It's tedious driving in a car at night. Good morning.
It's not even a car alone. As the caravanites, I can tell that the Heritage Caravan, 90% of the streets they drove on will not have light, which is why we don't drive at night. No. We try to stop night driving, because if you drive, look, you say Accra doesn't have lights.
Yeah.
Leave Accra, you won't see anything.
But you know, in addition to not having street lights, what we observed in Namibia was that some of their streets don't have street lights. But what they've done is that they have reflectors on the road proper road markings with reflectors that when you put on your lights, it will just guide you where you are going. So one, you don't have road markings, you don't have reflectors, and you don't have street lights. You just want to kill the people. Oh, talk about road markings. It's very important. Yes, we just did. Good morning, Bernard and team. Did anyone call an ambulance to attend to the 2 young victims of this hit and run driver? Did an ambulance come if called? The victims might have had a chance of survival. The chain of broken links in Ghana is long. In 2006 in the UK, I innocently got caught up in the debris and aftermath of a fatal accident at night on a dark motorway. I have never seen so much police hardware deployed at an accident scene. The road was closed for more than 6 hours for recovery and investigation.
Yep.
After taking statements and impounding my car, I had an open summons as a witness 18 months until the case was heard and the reckless driver jailed. There, but for the grace of God, we all go. Heartbroken Accra, East Legon. Bernard, I was happy that Mr. Maliba talked about meeting the 2M drivers. My goodness.
Who are the M's?
This is some minibus thing that drives intercity, goes to Kumasi, Sunyani. The first time I went to Sunyani, we went in that bus for my roommate's wedding. Bruh. Speed. No, those guys, they speed recklessly. And they really must be checked. Because no matter what you tell the driver, they are not going to listen. 2M.
It's a private.
It's a private cooperative bus. Something move from Accra to different parts of the city. Solid
In the day or
car.
at night?
Day, night, they move. In fact, we moved at night.
Do they have a separate law governing the way they drive?
I don't know how they do it, because if they've survived up to this point, they must have some special dispensation. But honestly,
neck breaking speed.
Back breaking speed.
How long did it take to get to Sunyani?
2M within 5 hours.
Which would have been like 7 hours.
7 hours. No, it's that one. It's crazy. I've seen crashes involving those kinds of buses.
2M.
It's fatal. 2M.
They speed too much.
My goodness.
So the minister says meeting them.
He said he's met them. This is Mr. Maliba. He says he's met them. So please, as for the 2M, they should focus on them.
They speed too much.
It's bad.
Wow. And you have personally experienced it.
Oh, listeners can confirm, Ben.
2M.
If you meet them in traffic like this,
They'll just pass by you.
the air will blow you away. Especially people like you and I.
And the police watch them.
Just throw us away.
We'll read more comments shortly. Soliciting ideas for a social. No, I'm thinking of the right word. A social marketing campaign on driver behavior, on road safety, with whether we should emphasize the education part. What messages should we put out? What collaborations do we need? How do we stop this epidemic between January and June? In fact, I have the 2024 end of year figures now. Let me just run you through them quickly before I take this next break. And it was sent to me by a listener. Thank you so much for sending it. So it says,
okay.
I have it here. It says,
National statistics.
yes. So 2023
Reported cases.
14,135. It jumped to it came down to 13,489.
Yeah.
Persons injured 15,409. Increase is 15,607. Persons killed increase from 2,227 to 2,949. So 2,500 people. I was right. Almost 2,500 people killed in 2014. Vehicles involved 22,975. And then there's also pedestrian knockdowns 2,394. Pedestrians killed 590. So if you add pedestrians killed to persons killed, it's almost 3,000 people in 2024.
Yes.
Which sickness has killed 3,000 people in 1 year in Ghana?
I have no idea. Not even COVID.
Maybe malaria.
Not even COVID.
Probably malaria. I don't know. Did COVID kill 3,000 people?
COVID, yeah. You know what they forget? They just stop coming.
Bernard, you see why?
But 3,000 is a lot too.
It's a lot of people. Bernard, Mr. Maliba said that he made a distinction, a statement I just want to throw some more light on. We had some training with Bloomberg at the AMA, right?
Yes, the AMA cities thing.
They teach you that you say road crashes and not road accidents. It's a crash because there are contributory factors.
So don't call it an accident.
If it's an accident, it's not something you had control over. But if it's an accident, one, the road in terms of engineering must have been poor. Two, the person behind the vehicle that is involved in the crash must have also been negligent, must be speeding or drink driving or watching on their phone or watching their phones, all that kinds of things. So the factors that come together to cause these needless deaths is called crashes. If you eliminate the factors, it means that you could have saved these lives. So we need to pay attention first of all. I mean, in terms of pedestrians, we need to be more careful. People have headphones, they have their phones, they are walking, they are not watching. It's a contributory factor. Now you are driving, you're also speeding, you're distracted. It's a factor. The road is poor, the lightning is bad. It's all a factor. So you have this cocktail of issues coming together, and you're going to see more of these things. So it means that it's not an accident. It's something we can deal with step by step.
We should call it by its real name.
Yes.
And the real name is road crashes.
Yeah.
Not road accident.
Accidents.
All right. I'll read a few final comments, and then I will do two things. I will speak to a few people. GCB is here to talk about their new loan. We'll discuss that briefly, and then we'll take you to week 2 of the Heritage Month Honors series. But there are a few people say you are right. So, for example, Kofi Kwam, Bernard, the 2M thing is true. They speed and Kasa, it's very, very, very bad. Then I have a couple of stories sent by my friend, a former journalist, who says head-on collision between buses kills 9 passengers on Accra Kumasi Highway, and then it's a 2M vehicle, and then tragedy strikes again. 2M Express crash kills 3 family members. Yeah. I'll just read that one. It's a series of stories that this person sent me, which corroborates your point that the 2M problem is actually real. It says a string of fatal accidents on the Accra Kumasi Road has raised grave concerns about the reckless driving habits of drivers employed by the 2M Express, a transport company in Ghana. The latest incident, which occurred on Friday, February 21, 2025, this is just 2 weeks ago, resulted in the loss of 3 family members' lives at Joaso and left others seriously injured and hospitalized after a 2M Express car, attempting to avoid a head-on collision following a reckless overtaking maneuver, crashed into a private vehicle on the highway. The tragic accident is not an isolated incident. There have been reports of multiple accidents involving 2M Express vehicles on the Accra Kumasi Road, with many resulting in fatalities and injuries. The root causes of these accidents appears to be reckless driving, with drivers speeding and overtaking recklessly. Passengers who use 2M Express services have repeatedly complained about their reckless driving, but their concerns are often disregarded or met with hostility by the drivers. The lack of regard for passengers' safety and well-being is alarming and unacceptable. Complaints from passengers include excessive speeding, reckless overtaking, aggressive driving, and disregard for traffic rules and regulations. Despite these concerns, the drivers seem to operate with impunity, ignoring the safety and comfort of their passengers. This culture of recklessness and disregard for passenger safety must be addressed urgently. Furthermore, passengers have reported numerous near misses, which have left them shaking and grateful to have escaped with their lives. These close calls are uncountable, and it's only a matter of time before another tragic accident occurs. Passengers have literally had to escape with the skins of their teeth, thanks to the reckless driving of 2M Express drivers. The management of 2M Express must be called upon to take responsibility for ensuring the safety and well-being of their passengers. This includes providing adequate training for drivers on defensive driving and passenger safety, enforcing strict driving protocols and regulations, encouraging a culture of respect and courtesy towards passengers, and taking prompt action against drivers who engage in reckless behavior. Kwabna Anani, a passenger who has been using 2M Express, urged, "We as passengers have the right to safe and respectful transportation. It is time for 2M Express to prioritize their safety and well-being," he added. Then the story continues. The Accra Kumasi Road is a major highway that connects 2 of Ghana's largest cities. While accidents can happen anywhere, the frequency and severity of these accidents suggest a deeper problem that requires urgent attention. Amid growing concerns over road safety issues, patrons of the 2M Express are urging the Road Safety Authority to take swift action against the company. The patrons demand decisive measures against reckless drivers, including those employed by the company. Quote, "The company must prioritize passenger safety and that of other road users by enforcing strict safety protocols and providing defensive driving training to their drivers." Yao Edu, 2M Express passenger age. This story is by Dennis Atukilson, and it's published on Ghana Web. There are a couple more stories like this, which I'm not here to denigrate any company, but I think that once the Road Safety Authority has already seen that this is a problem, they need to do it.